I want to welcome you to this session. We're turning a corner now, and we're going to begin to talk about family. Family life is so important, and this is going to be a special series because I have family with me. I have my wife, Tex, and son, Dave, and daughter-in-law, Kelly Tippit, that are here with us. And so we're going to be just talking about family, talking about family. We're going to have just a honest, authentic conversation about family life and what it means. And let me just say biblically, first of all, that the very first institution that God ordained was that of the family. And he established a man and a woman, and the two would become one flesh, he says. And of course, out of that, the first commandment he gave was to be fruitful and multiply. That meant to have a family, and those families were to multiply. And so we find the family unit as being so very important. Another thing that I have found, and we'll be talking about this as we go on, is that Jesus said that the greatest commandment was to love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and the second was very similar to that, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, the closest neighbor I have is sitting right next to me. Mm-hmm. And in our families, that's where we find really the practice ground for learning to love other people is in those people that we're the closest to. So we're going to be talking about that, but we're going to just start off real simple. And Dave, Kelly, we're just so glad that you could be with Tex and I and sharing this. And I think it'd be good for everyone to kind of just get to know us, first of all, and how we met each other and how we built our lives together. So Tex, why don't you start off telling everybody how we got to know each other?
Okay. I moved from Texas to Louisiana in my senior year in high school, and then I went to college at Southeastern University. And I started dating a guy that was Sammy's best friend. And so we would see each other, and then all of a sudden, he started dating the girl that Sammy was dating, and I started dating him. So that's how we met.
And then at that particular time, you really weren't a follower of Jesus.
I wasn't, and that was one thing that drew me to Sammy was that there was something different about him. I'd been to church all my life, and yet I didn't have that personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so he began to share with me, and there were some girls in my dorm that began to share with me about Jesus, and I saw something different, and I said, I want what they have. And so I went up all by myself in my dorm, and I'd been smoking, drinking, partying, and it wasn't satisfying. And so I said, God, if you're real like you are to those other young people, would you come in and be real to me? And that was in 1967. And so, and he has never left me yet. He's never forsaken me, and he's given me a purpose in life.
And we have been married. We got married in 68. Mm-hmm. And we've been married now for, 47 and a half years.
Yeah.
So we're working on 48, getting close to that big 50. Yep. So it's been good. So Kelly, Dave, how did you guys meet? I know, but everybody else doesn't know. So tell us how you met and a little about your journey.
Well, Dave was the new kid in 10th grade at my school here in San Antonio, and he was just different. He was somebody who really was genuinely interested in getting to know even the girls just in a nice way, not trying to brag or show off or anything, and so I was attracted to that. And by our junior year, we started dating, and so for the next 3.5 years, we were pretty exclusive, pretty much falling in puppy love. And then we went off to college, and in college we kind of grew apart a little bit and went through some different seasons. But eventually we ended up getting married about 9 years after we met. And we've been married 19 years, a little over 19 years, and we have 3 kids. Taylor is our daughter, our oldest daughter, who's 14. Riley is our second daughter, who is 12. And then Braden's our little guy, who is 9 years old.
Yeah. And just real quick on the getting married part, we dated for those 3.5 years. And when we were in college, we thought about getting married straight out of college, but we weren't in the right place. And we look back now and we see that it took us 9 years of getting to the point where we were ready for marriage before we actually got married. And I just see God's timing in that. If we would have gotten married earlier, who knows if we'd be sitting here today. But God had the perfect timing for us to go through things before he seasoned us to that place of marriage that we needed to be.
Well, I do have to say something, though. Kelly, when they started dating, I just loved her. I fell in love with her. And even when they separated for a time, I kept her picture in my wallet because I thought she is the one for our son. And so it's neat to see how, even though it didn't look like, but what God started, He brought to pass in y'all's life. So prayer is so important. So.
Yeah, and I felt sorry for those other girls he dated during that time. But it was good. So y'all got married. We've gotten married. We've been married 47 years. How long has it been now for you?
19 and a half.
19 and a half years that y'all been married.
Long time.
You know, one of the things about marriage is that it puts you into a relationship that you experience difficulties and problems. So let's just off the bat, what's been one of the most difficult things you've faced in those past 20 or so years, 19 and a half years?
I think there's many obstacles you got to overcome, but I think that one truth about life itself and the constant of life is that there's always change. Nothing ever remains static. Nothing ever remains the same, and that's true about Kelly and I as well. As a young couple, when we first got married 19 and a half years ago, we're different people than we were then. And if you're not careful, you can start to drift away. You can start getting your own passions, your own priorities, your own things in life that keep you busy. And I think you've got to be real intentional about seeing, as you see that gap start to widen, just intentionally connect again together at a deeper level. And I think, you discover you're still, when you get married, a lot of people, when they get married, they're still discovering who they are. They're still finding out what makes them tick, what giftings they have, all that kind of stuff. And over time, as I said, you can start to develop different passions. I think it's real important that you maintain an interest in your spouse's passions and vice versa. And just for example, Kelly and I, she's always had a heart for the needy, for the voiceless, for those who can't speak up for themselves. And she got involved with, we had refugees who've come here to San Antonio in the last few years from Iraq, and she got involved in their lives, just helping out on a practical level, helping them get involved in the community, get involved and become American citizens and go through that whole process and understand the whole American culture. And for me, I was more on the sidelines of that, but as I started to watch her get more involved, and as I got to play a little piece in that helped to grow our connection together at a deeper level. And she does the same thing for me. I over my lifetime, the way that God works through me is through the mind. And I love to listen to podcasts on my phone whenever I'm in the car or whenever I'm out and about. And there's things that I discover, and rather than just keep that to myself, the ones that I know that will at least have some interest to her, I'll pass along to her, and she'll listen to those things. And so we're very intentional about trying to connect with each other in the different ways that God's made us.
I had someone that I respect greatly say that it's like two people are on a lake in a boat, and the natural tendency for the boat is to drift apart. That's the natural thing that happens, and that you really have to work towards not allowing it to drift apart and to bringing it together. So that brings me to maybe a last thing just we could talk about briefly is, how has your relationship with the Lord or how has marriage affected your relationship with the Lord? Has it made it deeper? How's that affected?
I think God used marriage as a tool in my life to take me deeper with Him. I think before I got married, I thought I was just a pretty easy person to get along with, and I wasn't too selfish, but getting married showed me all my selfishness and how much I liked things done a certain way or my way. And God used that, I think, in my life just to show me that there's areas in my life that I didn't even see before marriage, that I didn't even know were there, that needed to be worked on.
Yeah, and I think that's what marriage, to a great extent, is all about. Is God chisels away at us to make us more like Christ through entering into a relationship where it's not just about me, but it's about someone else. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So that's the great challenge for every one of us today.